Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on any purchase over $10. See the description below for details. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. A lot to talk about today. We'll be looking at the continuing impact Ultimate Masters is having in the marketplace. But aside from that, maybe the big news of this week was the Ravnica Allegiance previews. We got to look at a few cards as well as the guild mechanics, and there is already an impact on the standard market due to the information we learned this week. We'll examine all of that today plus much more, but quickly before we get started, just a fast reminder, if you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to support the channel, one of which is our Patreon page. You're also going to find product links to Amazon down below. If you make any purchases on Amazon, once you go through that initial link, no matter what it is, we'll get a small percentage for the channel. And finally, Flipside Gaming still offering a promo code for our viewers. Hopefully you can save a little cash while you support the channel, but as always, thank you not only to the folks that look at those links, but to each and every one of you. You all make the channel what it is, so thank you, and let's get into it. We'll begin as we always do with the top 5 standard legal cards that have lost value this week, and you're going to see here a lot of very solid cards from this previous meta, but they are sort of expensive right now because they performed well previously. And a lot of folks are just going to wait and see what's going to happen with the new meta and the card previews that are coming up before they make any big purchases. So some of these better cards are getting a little softer right now. Before we get to our top 5, I do have one honorable mention, and it is Carnage Tyrant, going down 72 cents to $29.99. We know what this card can do in standard. It had a great season in those Golgari mid-range decks. However, this is still a card that will survive in standard, I think, no matter what happens to the meta. It's always going to find a home. It's just too good not to. So even when everything changes within the coming weeks, I do think this continues to see play in standard. But aside from that, I'm interested in the play this is seen in modern. I mentioned in the past that you'll find a copy of this many times in the sideboard of Titan Breach or Titan Shift decks, but more recently this has shown up in the main deck of Gruul Land Destruction. Eli Brooks of the Star City Games Modern Classic in Baltimore a few weeks back was piloting a Gruul Land Destruction deck with 3 copies of this in the main. We'll have to see if other decks pick up on this strategy, but if this continues to lose value in the coming weeks in between the standard metas, it might be a good pickup. Number 5, Chromatic Lantern, goes down 87 cents to $6. Now this is the Commander 2016 variant of the card. Obviously this is standard legal because it was printed in Guilds of Ravnica, but if you're a Commander player looking to pick this up, it is getting cheaper than ever. Obviously I would just grab the Guilds version if you don't care about which one you're getting, because that one is the cheapest right now. However, this also has seen some standard play in the Chromatic Black decks, which are actually really sweet decks. You don't always see them showing up in big tournaments, although there was at least one weekend where it put up a good result. Haven't seen a whole lot of it since then, but it's still a really fun deck, and you never know, when new cards coming in, it could make a comeback. Number 4, Aurelia, Exemplar of Justice, goes down 84 cents to $6.56. This card's getting very cheap considering how good it looked in the previous meta. Now granted, everyone's expecting some big changes in the new meta, and maybe this card won't be as good. We'll have to wait and see, of course. But if this goes down a little more and people begin to sleep on it, you might want to grab some copies. Simply because it looked really good in the last meta. I mean, look at the Pro Tour, for example, those Boros Weenie decks, which were really white Weenie decks. Many of them were running this out of the sideboard. But it's been in the main of some really big decks too, like the more traditional Boros Aggro build and Boros Angels. We don't know exactly what Ravnica Allegiance is going to bring us, but if this card is supported by some of the new cards in that set, then it could have another successful season. Number 3, Doom Whisperer, down 84 cents to $13.85. Great commander card, great card for Golgari mid-range decks like we saw this season. It's not always in those decks. Sometimes it will range from anywhere between no copies to like 1 in the sideboard to up to like 2 or 3 in the main. Those decks tend to vary, but it has seen a lot of play, and I do think that this is a powerful enough card that it will see play again in the future. Number 2, Vivian Reed, goes down 97 cents to $23. This has been another card that has had a great season. Golgari mid-range decks, many of the Selesnya builds have found success with this card. And I do think this is another card that's going to stick around, but there's a difference here. This card's price point is really high. Because of the success it's had recently in standard, it was going up in value. Now it's beginning to stabilize down. I do think it's going to come down more. If you compare the amount of play that it does see and that price point of $23, they don't quite match up. Even if this does continue to see play, and I do think it will, I think it still gets cheaper. Number 1, Rekindling Phoenix, goes down $1.06 to $26.65. Now, this card lost a little steam recently, but it also was another card that got inflated really high and then started to back down a little bit, so it's not too surprising. I still think it's a pretty high price point, though, right now compared to how much play it's seeing. But Mono Red and Boros Aggro decks were successful with this season. Boros Angels decks. Now, more recently, I've seen this in Big Red, and it's looked really good there. Now, we know Rakdos will also have a more aggressive feel to it, so maybe some of the red cards coming from Ravnica Allegiance may support this a little bit. Again, another card that's not going to get bad in Standard anytime soon, even when the meta shifts. I'm sure it will find a home. But I am concerned a little bit about that price point. I do think if it continues to see the same amount of play, or even a little more play, it could still lose some value. Alright, let's move on to the top 10 standard legal cards that have gained value this week. That's right, we're going to do 10 cards. There's a lot happening due to those previews from Ravnica Alliance we saw this week. So let's get into it. Number 10, Elenda the Dusk Rose, goes up 37 cents to $6.84. Not a huge increase necessarily, but a big indication that people are starting to pay attention to this card because of the Orzhov Afterlife mechanic that we learned about this week. This card could play really well with that mechanic potentially, and it's already beginning to creep up. Grab your copies before they get too expensive. Number 9, Grasping Scoundrel. Now, this is the Magic 2019 variant of the card, going up 39 cents to $2.29. This is not the Rivals of Ixalan variant. Keep that in mind. So why is this going up? Well, it's just market manipulation. We've seen this happen in the past. It's happening again this week. Somebody is taking these cards that you don't usually see listed online in the marketplace all that often, and they're jumping the price by putting up some exaggerated listings. So why is it so hard to find this card to begin with? Well, there's only one place to find it, and it's the Black Welcome decks, which stores give out to new players if they want to learn to play Magic. And because you don't have a lot of people taking apart those decks and selling them for parts, there's not a lot of data online, so if someone wants to jump the price, it's not really hard to do. And you could argue that maybe with Spectacle coming out this week as the Rakdos mechanic, this card maybe is going to be a little better in the future. But even so, don't pay this price for the card. Either buy the Rivals one, or just buy this version at a cheaper price because they are out there. Number 8 is Kumina, Tyrant of Araska. This goes up 58 cents to $6.31, and here's another card that is moving because of the speculation from what we saw this past week. Partially, some of these color combinations, like we just saw an Orzhov card, now we're seeing a Simic card. Some people are thinking they want to bet on the fact that these cards get better, knowing that those guilds are coming, but it is more than that, especially in this case. We saw some cards that might actually help merfolk this week, one of which was Zagana Utopian Speaker, the other one was Incubation and Incongruity. That card looks really good as a matter of fact. We also saw Simic Ascendancy this weekend, and generally the Adapt mechanic. All of it kind of plays into Kumina maybe becoming a better card. Not just in Standard either, but perhaps even in Commander. Number 7 is a Rakdos card. It is Angreth the Flame Chain, going up 68 cents to $7.99. So again, we know Rakdos is coming, so it stands to reason this card might get better, but we also got to look at the Spectacle mechanic this week, and this does play very well with that mechanic. I expect this one to go up more in the coming weeks. Number 6, Tattered Mummy. Here's another one of these Magic 2019 variants, up $1.01 to $1.99. Again, this might play well with Spectacle, which might be why someone's trying to manipulate the market this week. But remember, this is from Mom and Cat. You can get it much cheaper if you get that copy. Or again, just look around if you really want the Magic 2019 copy. Don't pay $2 for it because you don't have to. This one is especially not really that hard to find. Not only can you find a copy in the Black Welcome deck, much like Grasping Scoundrel, but also there's 2 copies of this card in Magic Game Night. There's 4 copies in the Magic 2019 Liliana Planeswalker deck. It's really not hard to find. It's just that they jumped the price online because there's not a lot of copies out there. Number 5 is Crucible of Worlds from Fifth Dawn, going up $1.27 to $22.25. Of course, this is standard legal because it was reprinted in Magic 2019, but it's not really seeing a lot of standard play. Of course, this is a great modern card, and it's worth pointing out that it finally appears that these cards have reached rock bottom and are starting to move up since the Magic 2019 reprint happened. But it's a good card in War of Invention decks in Modern. Also, many times you'll find this in sideboards of Tron or Azorius Control builds. Number 4, Divine Visitation, goes up $1.45 to $5.71. This is a card that a lot of people really wanted to see work in Standard. Didn't quite get there. But maybe with Afterlife, this card does definitely get better. Is it good enough to see Standard play and actually be consistent there? I'm still not sold. I think 5 is a lot to ask for a card that's not doing anything on its own. But if anything can push this card, it does appear that it could be Afterlife. If there's enough good Afterlife cards in the set, maybe this gets there. Number 3, Pelt Collector. This doubles in price, going up $2 to $4 this week. Again, it's all speculation based on what we saw. Simic Ascendancy, the Adapt mechanic in general, some people are thinking maybe this card finally reaches its potential. Number 2, Hadana's Climb, goes up $2.22 to $4. This one more than doubled this week. And this is a very solid card. I did see some Merfolk decks in the past trying to run this card. And like I mentioned earlier, maybe, just maybe, Merfolk decks have the tools now to get better and become a Tier 1 deck. Time will tell, but a lot of people are starting to think it's a possibility, and they're picking this card up. Not only does this work well potentially with Merfolk, but also the other things I mentioned, the Simic Adapt mechanic generally, Simic Ascendancy. We saw a lot of interesting Simic cards this week that make people want to go out and pick up this card, obviously. Number 1, Nexus of Fate is back on this list, going up $2.28 this week to $16.89. Now, we've seen a little bit of success with Nexus decks recently the last couple weeks. World Magic Cup, we saw a Bant Nexus deck doing pretty good. The week before, Jeskai Nexus was doing pretty good. So it got people thinking, who knows, maybe, just maybe, especially considering we're getting some new cards like Emergency Powers that we saw yesterday, for example, that the Nexus decks might get better. Time will tell, but people are already going out to pick up this card. All right, we're going to move on to Modern now. And again, we're looking at top 10 cards that lost value and gained value today because of the ripple effects from Ultimate Masters. Now, we're not going to talk about Ultimate Masters cards in particular today. We did a video on those a couple days ago. I'll link it at the end in case you missed it. But we will be seeing many of the cards that were reprinted in this set, and many are going down still. All right, number 10 is Fauna Shaman. This is the Magic 2011 version, of course, going down $1.48 to $10.49. This has seen a little bit of legacy or modern play here or there, very fringe play. But for the most part, this is just a cool Commander or Cube card, and it was recently reprinted, of course, as a rare in Ultimate Masters. Number 9, Horizon Canopy from Future Sight, goes down $1.54 this week to $76.60. This was not reprinted in Ultimate Masters, but it has been growing quite a bit recently, and whenever a card goes up in value quickly, it's not unusual to see some normalization, and that's what's happening here. The Future Sight version of this card is a little more sought after because it's harder to find in good condition, first off, and also it has a unique card frame and unique art, so a lot of collectors and players do gravitate towards this copy. And aside from that, this is just a good card in a lot of decks. Banned Spirits, Humans, Hexproof, Hardened Scales Affinity, and other modern decks, as well as many legacy builds. Number 8, Celestial Colonnade, going down $1.57 to $35.96. Now, of course, this is a big part of a lot of modern control builds, but it was reprinted as a rare in Ultimate Masters. Number 7 is Jace the Mind Sculptor from Eternal Masters, going down $1.78 to $97.70. This is, again, normalization. This card has been going up relatively aggressively over the last month or so you're seeing a little snapback here. Great in modern control builds, also sees legacy and vintage play. Number 6 is Karn Liberated from New Phyrexia, going down $1.95 to $70.30. Karn, of course, was reprinted as a mythic rare in Ultimate Masters, which is why this card softened a little bit. I don't know if it's going to go down all that much more, though. Tron decks are still very popular. Number 5, Engineered Explosives from Modern Masters, goes down more, $1.96 to $48.99 this week. So this card's lost a lot of value recently. And percentage-wise, it's been seeing a little bit less play, and of course it was reprinted as a rare in Ultimate Masters, which really dropped the price on this one. But remember, it's still a good card. He's playing some legacy sideboards, a lot of modern sideboards, and it's in the main deck of Ironworks combo, which has actually been doing pretty well recently. Number 4, Goryo's Vengeance, goes down $2.16 to $30.53. This was reprinted in Ultimate Masters as a rare. And even though percentage-wise you don't see typically a lot of copies in the field of these Vengeance or Grishol brand decks, they can put up good results. And because of this reprinting and the reprinting of Through the Breach, which we will look at in just a moment, more and more people are paying attention to that deck and trying to assemble it. Wouldn't be surprised if it starts to show up more and more in the modern scene. Number 3, I don't have a whole lot new to add here, but this is Through the Breach, going down $2.43 to $26.52, and like I said, it was reprinted as a rare in Ultimate Masters. Now, outside of Modern, this card has seen just a little bit of legacy play in the past, unlike Goryo's Vengeance, which feels more like a modern card generally. Number 2, Gaddock Teeg, goes down $2.84 to $32.15, another card that was reprinted as a rare in Ultimate Masters, and because of which it has softened up quite a bit. You'll find this coming out of sideboards and Humans and Hexproof decks, as well as other decks in Modern. Also, this will see some legacy play, sometimes right in the main, just because of the nature of that format. Number 1 is Noble Hierarch from Conflux, going down $4.74 to $64. This was reprinted as a rare in Ultimate Masters, and what you're seeing this week is this card kind of normalizing down a little bit to get closer to the other variants. The Conflicts one most likely will always be the most expensive generally, but remember, shop around. You can find a deal on this card this week because it is losing a lot of value right now. Whenever a card loses that much value, people will get nervous and drop the price. But after this week, as we move into the next couple weeks, I don't think you're going to find a lot of great deals on this card anymore. It does appear that the other copies have already begun to stabilize, and this one will probably stabilize pretty soon too. Maybe in the high 50s to low 60s, but it will stabilize. Now, with that being said, the card sees play in a lot of great decks. In Modern, Bad Spirits, Humans, Infect, just to name a few. It's in Legacy builds. Vintage Survival decks will run this sometimes. Not always, but when you do see it, many times it is a 4 of in the main. Okay, let's move on to the top 10 Modern legal cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 10 is Scalding Tarn, going up $1.66 to $79.99. Now, this is the Zendikar version, but I'll tell you what, all of these fetch lands are going up in value. I don't care if they're allied, I don't care if they're enemy aligned, I don't care which copy they are, they're all going up. Obviously, the enemy-aligned ones are going to be going up more aggressively because they are harder to find. The Khans of Tarkir block reprinted the allied ones in a standard block, so that really helped get more copies out there. These were reprinted in Modern Masters 2017, a little more limited, even though they were rares in that set. But generally, we don't know when they're going to be reprinted again, and we don't know in what quantities, and by that time, who knows what the price is going to be on these cards. What you're starting to see now is a rush for cards that were not reprinted in Ultimate Masters, but contain cards that were reprinted in Ultimate Masters. They got the Liliana or the Tarmogoyf for the Snapcaster Mage cheaper now, and they need to get the rest of the cards in the deck. So what's going to happen? The demand goes up for those cards, and the price goes up for those cards. Mana-based cards will be the first to do that because of the crossover appeal. They're in a lot of different decks. And then other cards will follow. In fact, we'll see more of that later in the list. So keep that in mind going forward when you make your purchases over the course of the next few weeks. Now, with that being said, this one is especially hot because the Izzet colors are doing really well right now in Modern. We've seen Jeskai control decks doing well, but most recently, Izzet Phoenix has been hot. A lot of people are trying to assemble that deck too. Number 9, Griselbrand, up $1.68 to $12.32. This is the Modern Masters 2017 copy of the card. This is exactly what I was talking about. Through the Breach got reprinted at Rare. Goryo's Vengeance got reprinted at Rare. Those cards are cheaper, easier to get a hold of now. So what do I do with them once I have them? Well, I probably want to build a Griselbrand deck for Modern. And because of that, this card starts to go up. Number 8, Dark Confidant from Ravnica City of Guilds. Goes up $1.78 this week to $59.54. Tarmogoyf got a little bit cheaper. Maybe I want to play Golgari Midrange or Jund in Modern. Well, it's a little cheaper now, so now I can invest in a more expensive card like Dark Confidant, and my money will go a little bit further, perhaps. So that's part of this. But also, I was a little surprised that this card was as soft as it was for as long as it was, because Bob has been performing really well recently. Not only in the 2 decks I just mentioned, but also in Legacy, Golgari Waste, or 4-color Loam, even in Vintage Bug Midrange. This original Bob was kind of soft. I think those days are over. It will continue to go up a little bit more at least before it stabilizes. Number 7, Liliana of the Veil. 2 copies here. Innistrad going up $2.13 to $82.75. Modern Masters 2017 going up $2.18 to $82.18. Yep, it looks like the price break from Ultimate Masters is coming to an end on this card anyway. Now, it was a mythic in that set, and it sees extensive play. It's a very iconic card, too. So it's not surprising to see this being one of the first cards to stabilize out of the set, and I do think it will stabilize between the $80, $85 mark, kind of like you're seeing right here. So ultimately, it might go down a little here or there, up a little, but I don't think it's going to move all that much. It is a card that, again, sees a lot of play. Golgari Midrange and Jund in Modern, 4-color Loam in Legacy, and a lot of other decks, too. Worldspine Worm comes in at number 6, up $2.48 this week to $10.04. Wow, well, here's another card that's in those Griselbrand or Vengeance decks. Typically a 4 of in those builds. And like I said, more people are just trying to assemble that deck right now because the pieces are getting cheaper. And it actually put up a real good result not too long ago. 3rd place at the Star City Games Modern Classic in Baltimore just a few weeks back. Number 5, Bitter Blossom from Morningtide goes up $3.16 to $40.95. This was also reprinted in Ultimate Masters, but as a mythic. So this card already bouncing back pretty aggressively. But remember, it's the Morningtide copy. That set had a pretty low print run just generally compared to other Modern era sets, so not surprising to see the quick bounce back here too. This card doesn't see as much Modern play anymore compared to Legacy play. It still sees some Modern, but Legacy is really where this card has shined recently. Many times it's just a 1 of or 2 of out of the sideboard, but you will find this in many popular decks like Golgari Waste, for example. Number 4, Surgical Extraction, Modern Masters 2015 up $2.15 to $39.99. New Phyrexia going up $3.99 to $39.97. Now, these cards have closed the gap a little bit. Remember a couple weeks ago that Modern Masters 2015 card was actually much cheaper? Well, not so much anymore. This card is seeing a lot of play in Modern currently out of sideboards, and with that Phyrexian mana, we just don't know when it's going to be reprinted again necessarily. It was not in Ultimate Masters and has taken off since then. Number 3, Horizon Canopy from Iconic Masters, going up $4.31 this week to $64.99. Well, we saw the Future Sight one going down this week. This one going up quite a bit. The Future Sight one has just gotten so expensive. If you want to play with the card, the Iconic Masters one is just the better choice at this point, but it's still pretty expensive in its own right until it gets a reprint at some point anyway. So it was not in Ultimate Masters. It continues to go up, and like I mentioned previously, it's in a lot of important decks. Number 2, Cavern of Souls from Modern Masters 2017 at $4.35 to $69.98. Much like Liliana we saw a few moments ago, this got reprinted as a Mythic in Modern Masters 2017 and then again recently in Ultimate Masters. But also much like Liliana, it appears that this card has stabilized and is already going up in value. If you like tribal magic, you probably want some copies of this card. It's in a lot of big Modern decks right now, like Spirits and Humans, but really the crossover appeal is what drives the price of this card. Number 1, Snapcaster Mage from Modern Masters 2017, up $6.18 to $69.14. See the trend here? Another card that got reprinted as a Mythic in Ultimate Masters and Modern Masters 2017, but the card is already bouncing back and going up in value. Now again, this sees a lot of crossover play, Vintage, Legacy, Modern. It's a great control card, and it's already going up quite a bit this week. Let's move on to our Vintage Spotlight, where we look at some cards that are moving due to gameplay and others that are moving due to the collector's market. Ancient Tomb is the first one from Tempest, going down $1.64 to $30.35. This got reprinted in Ultimate Masters as a rare. It's a good Vintage, Legacy, Commander, and Cube card. Phyrexian Tower, going down $2.89 to $35.35. Same story here. This also is in Ultimate Masters as a rare. And even though this doesn't see as much play in Legacy as St. Ancient Tomb does, it does see some light Legacy play. But again, it's also a very good Commander and Cube card. Back to Basics, another card that got reprinted as a rare in Ultimate Masters. You see the trend here, going down $3.24 to $53.75. This card sees play in a lot of Legacy decks right now, including Miracles. Not always out of the sideboard either, sometimes right in the main. Next we have Karakas. This did get reprinted in Ultimate Masters as a Mythic this time, but these copies are still going down in value. Eternal Masters down $2.44 to $46.50. Legends down $3.32 to $80.07. Another card that sees a lot of Legacy and Vintage play, but unlike some of the other ones on this list, it does not see Commander play because it is banned there. Mana Drain, as we move on to some cards going up in value, this is the Legends copy going up $8 to $159.95. Now, we saw the Iconic Masters version going up recently. It's kind of stabilized out this week, but stands to reason that the original copy might start to go up a little bit too. Percentage-wise, this isn't necessarily a huge gain, but definitely an indicator that people are interested in this card. Great Vintage card, but also sees Commander and Cube play. This week we do have some unlimited cards getting hot again on the collector's market. Counterspell is one of them, going up $12.15 this week to $63.90. This is not on the reserve list. It has been reprinted, obviously, if you want cheaper copies. Navineral's Disc from Unlimited also going up this week, up $18.81 to $197.01. Much like the previous card, it is not on the reserve list and has been reprinted. Mana Vault from Unlimited. This got reprinted recently in Ultimate Masters as a Mythic. However, these unlimited cards just have a life of their own. This one's going up $22.36 this week to $130.71. Obviously, this is not on the reserve list and has been reprinted relatively recently, as a matter of fact. Old Man of the Sea from Arabian Nights. Now, this is on the reserve list. It is going up $93.59 this week to $299.99. The main reason for this is there's a few near mint copies that were introduced to the marketplace this week. They're asking a little more than normal for them, and it's just pushing the price point up a little bit. Will they get what they're asking for the card? Maybe, maybe not. If they don't, those listings might come down a little bit, and then this card will kind of go back to where it was potentially. Black Lotus from Unlimited. We know this is on the reserve list and has not been reprinted since Unlimited. It goes up $982.20 this week to $9,499. Why is that? Well, it is Black Lotus, but that's not why it's going up $1,000 this week. Basically, just like the last card, it just has to do with the listings that are out there right now. More near mint copies entered the marketplace. Some graded copies of the card are on the marketplace. It's just pushing the price point up a little bit this week. Now, if those cards don't sell and they lower the price, then you might see the average value snap back within the next couple weeks. Okay, let's move on to our Commander Spotlight. First, we have Temporal Manipulation from Portal Second Age going down $1.96 to $74.99. This was reprinted as a Mythic in Ultimate Masters, which is why it's losing value. This doesn't see play in a whole lot of places, but if you're looking for a cool commander card that allows you to take an extra turn, here's another one. Cabal Coffers from Torment going up $1.06 this week to $31.73. Now, this is being sparked a little bit by that reprinting of Phyrexian Tower that occurred in Ultimate Masters. Sliver Queen goes up $1.09 to $63.54. This is on the reserve list, but it's a pretty amazing Sliver commander. Mizzix Adia's Magnus. This goes up $1.14 to $7.74. This is a card that's been pretty popular in the community recently. I've seen videos and articles about it. That alone will put more eyes on it. But part of the reason this card is so hot right now is because a lot of the cards from Guilds of Ravnica make this card better in Commander. Cards like Thousand Year Storm, Nib Mizzet Parent, Expansion Explosion, Ionize, Mission Briefing. Even Dig Through Time that got reprinted in Ultimate Masters plays well with this card, so with all that activity around it, I would expect it to continue to go up in value. Phyrexian Dreadnought from Mirage goes up $1.31 to $42.04. This card got hot when Lazav the Multifarious came out, and it's starting to heat up again, even though it was pretty stable for a while. This is on the reserve list, but it did get a reprinting as a Judge promo back before they changed the policy where they decided not to do that type of thing anymore. Tetsao Umezawa, who defeated Nicol Bolas, by the way, in case you don't know that lore, up $1.50 to $70. And this card is on the reserve list, and it's from Legends. I like to point out whenever these gold reserve list Legends cards go up, this one continues to creep up. Dream Halls goes up $1.52 this week to $22.31, also on the reserve list. And this card was recently featured on the Command Zone podcast, so that's part of the reason that it's getting a little bit hot right now. It also plays well with Nib Mizzet Parent, which is a new card that entered the format not too long ago. Teferi's Protection continues to stay hot, going up $1.98 to $31.15 this week. Sees play in numerous commander builds nowadays. Archfiend of Despair from Battlebond going up $3.24 to $11.99. This card is really taken off. Not only will you find this in Xantcha decks many times, but also remember Shirai Shizo's Caretaker was just reprinted as an uncommon in Ultimate Masters, and many times you'll find the card in that deck as well. Back to reserve list cards with Transmute Artifact. This goes up $3.90 to $169.99. Now, I don't think this is moving because of Commander, but it is a cool Commander card. I just wanted to point it out. Mana Crypt, another Commander staple here. The original media promo that you got from the book giveaway goes up $1.40 to $171.99. Eternal Masters copy going up $4.22 to $141.02 this week. Kobold Overlord going up $4.80 to $69.99. Another card that continues to stay hot. This is on the reserve list, but a lot of people think Kobolds will be making a comeback. This plays really well with Raga of Kirkheap, which also has been a hot card recently, and the more contemporary Prosh. On to the Pauper Spotlight. Gutshot's our first card. New Phyrexia going up 45 cents to $3.89. Modern Masters 2015 going up 82 cents to $3.48. Now, this is an awesome Pauper card. You're going to find this in a lot of big decks like Inside Out Combo and others, but the reason it's moving right now is because of Modern. Phoenix decks are really pushing this card, whether it's Izzet Phoenix, Mono Red Phoenix, Runaway Red, you name it, they all run copies of Gutshot. Can you have a Pauper Spotlight without the Black Lotus of Pauper Oubliette? Of course you can't. This is the Arabian Nights A variant, which is kind of the harder to read casting cost variant like you see in the photograph here. Up $1.37 this week to $39.20. Great Pauper card for those black control builds. Alright, that was a lot of cards. A lot has been going on in the market, and we will continue to keep track of it for you. But until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page, as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.